So Halloween's coming up, and I want to do something a little different because I am one of those people who loves this time of the year. Carving pumpkins, watching bad horror movies, gray skies reminding me how I feel, leaves dying all around me in such vibrant colors, the weather turning cold like the sweet embrace of death, you know, that kind of stuff. But even though I do a lot of these lengthy dissections on music, I don't really get a chance to recommend stuff to you guys, and I feel like the perfect place to start, especially with this time of year, is It Follows. So It Follows is about this girl, Jay, who's just a regular 19, 20-ish girl, going to community college, seeing this cute guy, yada yada, and they're at that stage where they're gonna have sex. Except after doing so, he chloroforms her, ties her to a wheelchair, and basically explains that he's given her an STD, which in this case stands for sexually transmitted demon. So he tells her, someone I had sex with gave this to me, and now I have passed it on to you. And the only way to keep this thing from killing you is if you pass it along to someone else. But if it gets the person that you pass it on to, then it will start coming for you again, and then it'll start coming for me, and so on and so forth to whoever started it. And this thing can take the form of any person it wants to get close to you. A stranger, someone you know, a past victim, but no one can see it except for you or anyone else that has it. And so the film is about her and her friends trying to figure out how they can stop this. Now, this movie came out in the wake of The Babadook, and it started this weird divide amongst fans for which one you liked more, It Follows or The Babadook. Personally, I like The Babadook, but It Follows I love. And if you want to say The Babadook is the better movie, then sure, I'll agree. The narrative's stronger, it's more consistent with its metaphor, but I'm someone who's really big on atmosphere. And yeah, Babadook is great on that level. It Follows just does it better for me. And plus, you don't have to worry about that annoying fucking kid in the first third of it.
Give it to me!
Do you want to die?
Just be normal! There is no Babadook!
This is the best commercial for condoms I've ever seen in my life. And if you want to say the music is a gimmick, it's style over substance, sure, go ahead. I still fucking love this movie, but there are some valid points against it, particularly the consistency with the rules it sets up, one or two jump scares that are just desperate, and where it goes in the third act is pretty dumb. Yeah, I can admit to all that stuff. All of these are completely valid criticisms.
Here's another question. Do I give a fuck?
And that's how I feel about the problems with It Follows. Maybe it's a dreamlike logic, or maybe I'm just a fanboy, go ahead, take your pick, but there is a difference between recognizing something is wrong and having a problem with it. And plus, some of these flaws are what make it so much fun for me, like Paul. I don't know what it is, but whenever I watch this movie, I am just so mean to this kid. I almost feel bad sometimes. Paul is such a friend zone bitch that I'm sorry, I really can't help myself.
Your sister's so pretty, it's annoying. It is annoying.
At least she's nice.
Shut up, Paul. You virgin. Now, It Follows pays homage to a lot of the template slasher films from the 70s and 80s, and even has a great synth score by Disasterpeace to really drive it home. But the most notable influence is John Carpenter, particularly Halloween.
There's an essential question that you have to answer, and it's basic when you make a film. There's two kinds of, there's a left-wing horror and a right-wing horror. Now, the right-wing horror, we're all a tribe, and the evil is out there. Right. It's going to come and get us. There's also a left-wing horror, and it's right in here.
So which brand of horror is It Follows? Well, it's both. Because what's following Jay is something outside of our characters that's always trying to make its way in, like a predator circling their campfire. In fact, the cinematography is put to great use in emphasizing that. But with sex being the central motif, it makes us as an audience feel violated to just think about it because it's such a primal urge. So the evil exists out there, but it's caused by what's within us. Something I mentioned in the video for Drive was that all great works of homage pull equally from various sources rather than just one. Now, Halloween is the most obvious choice with the suburban backdrop, but it combines the slasher tropes of that with the paranoia of The Thing and the isolated protagonist from They Live.
What's going on? Nothing in the house, Jay.
I saw it.
Open the door, okay?
He's in the kitchen.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
Shut up, Paul, you virgin.
And because they're melded together so equally, I think that's why the soundtrack doesn't come off as trying too hard. Because there are a few moments where I do go, wait a minute. Now, It Follows has an incredible premise, one of the best for a horror movie in a long time, so I can see people being disappointed because it doesn't completely live up to it at the end. But again, for me as a fan of genre films, I love the way they turn these tropes on themselves. For instance, the villain itself. I love that it takes the Final Destination approach and just cuts the middleman out. Where in those movies, death is literally the killer coming for you. In It Follows, it takes that trope of the slasher coming after horny teenagers and literally says, if you have sex, the villain's coming after you. But just like all the greats, it's not in any rush to get to you. I've always been really annoyed by slasher villains that fuck around too much. Like, I'm not a fan of the Jason movies, but Freddy Krueger would take way too long for me. But again, It Follows takes that trope and makes it work in the same way that George Romero would make it work with zombies, where the persistence was scarier than the actual creature. It becomes less of how can we stop it and more of how much longer can I live like this, to where our cold open isn't someone who's scared anymore, but someone who's just exhausted. And what's even more beautiful is how they use that to bend another horror movie trope. You know that bitchy popular girl in every movie who's usually the first one to die because they want you to want her to die? Well, this is that character having an actual moment of clarity before that happens.
Dad, I'm sorry I can be such a shit to you sometimes. I don't know why I do that.
This is that annoying cliche actually apologizing for what an annoying cliche she is. She's given a sympathetic moment to talk to her father and say, look, Dad, I'm sorry I'm such a trope. I don't know why I'm like that, but it's just how they write me. And you may think I'm looking too deep into that, but keep in mind the bright red high heels she wears in the scene before it, and the fact that she dies from having her knee bent backwards. Since she lived her life on her knees, her punishment is the inverse of that, because symbolism. Okay, I feel like I'm rambling at this point, and if you still haven't seen it, I'm probably hyping it up way too much now, but let me just say that if you love Drive, then at the very least, you'll dig this. Just keep in mind that where Drive was very equal in balancing art house with a genre film, It Follows leans more on the genre aspect. It's still there for sure, but I just don't think it's as smart as Drive. Either way, whatever David Robert Mitchell does next, it cannot come soon enough for me. Whatever he does next, I'm hype as hell, but I just hope he has time to figure out his climax better.
Laura! Fuck you, Paul! You virgin! Virgin!
So guys, if you've seen It Follows, what did you think of it? I really don't want this to be another gem that everyone forgets about 5 years down the road, so I figured I'd do my part as a fan and spread the word on it. Either way, if you've seen it, leave a comment, let me know, and I'll see you guys next time.
I am no prophet, and here's no great matter. I have seen the moment of my greatness flicker, and I have seen the eternal footman hold my